Okay, so here's Scott Criswell. So again, he's the CEO of Symmetry, which is a big international hand sanitation company and 10th Mountain Division background. He was an infantry officer, and he's based out of based out of St. Louis. But he has literally taken that company, and it's a, and he could explain this better than me, but out of subsidiary. I don't know the fancy business word, but it has a parent company called Buckeye, but Symmetry. So with Scott, my point is this: Scott started this company from scratch. Now he had the resources from the parent company, but he started this company from scratch. And again, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but 5 to 8 years ago, and now it is a multi-million-dollar international company that is doing, a lot of business. And so again, phenomenal leader, amazing leader.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Awesome. Fantastic. First of all, I don't know if Eric's still listening. Eric, I'm 49. Is it too late to enlist? If you're in charge of recruiting, man, I'm ready to go.
Let's go. Sign up. One more time.
All right, man. All right. I mean, I don't know what I'd be qualified for, but man, recruiting command is going to be in much better shape with you. And I will tell you guys this: the only reason I agreed to do this today is really there's two. Number one, I'm staying at my mother-in-law's for Thanksgiving, and also Noble said there was going to be a gift certificate for Frito-Lay, and so that's why that was my big motivation here. So, but no, man, I'm kidding. Honestly, when I heard who was going to be speaking, I thought, man, I don't know if anybody's going to get anything from me, but I'm gonna log in just so I can learn something. So he's got quite a lineup for you guys. And if you haven't heard Kevin Bell, he'd be worth the price of admission just to hear Kevin for 30 seconds. So I don't want to talk too long here because I'd love to hear from Kevin. But I've got 3 things for you. Right? I didn't go to West Point, so 5 is too complicated if you didn't go to West Point. So I tried to boil it down to 3. But I'm doing a little alliteration for you guys so you can remember them. So the 3 P's: principles, number 1; people, number 2; and products, number 3. So think of this as kind of high level view of business and leadership: principles, people, and products. And I'll start with people. And it sort of got alluded to in some really good Army speak that I sort of remember from 20 years ago. But as a civilian, I would say, why are you doing what you're doing? As a military guy, you might say, do you understand commander's intent? So number 1, if you're in charge, are you conveying commander's intent? But if you're a civilian like me, why are you asking people to do what you're asking them to do? And then do those people understand why they are doing what they're doing? I think that's really critical, that when you think about the principles of what's going to drive the business, what is driving your organization. And I felt like Hank nailed that. So I won't keep beating that drum, but people have got to understand the principles that either your organization, your team, or your business is going to be run by and follow. And I think that's absolutely critical, and that's sort of the foundational thing that I think has got to be understood by everybody before you can get to any other step at that point. And I'll give you an example. We are a privately held company. Okay, and I'm going to have to paint with a little bit of a broad brush here for time's sake. So there's always exceptions to everything, but give me a little bit of artistic liberty here. But I've seen a lot of publicly traded companies, and they are driven, in my opinion, by the bottom line. You talk to those jokers and you ask them how they're doing, and they've got to look at their computer to see what that stock price is doing today to decide if I can smile and have a good day or not. A lot of those folks are on pins and needles because it is so bottom line driven. And I think that can really starve an organization. If they think that we're so worried about that number that people aren't that important, then you're going to end up with a revolving door of folks, or you're going to end up with people that are in there to try to get their big dividend or get their big stock buyout. And long term, I'm not really sure that's attracting the right kind of people that you want. So I think the principles are really critical on how's that being communicated, how's that driving all of your decisions, and how are you exemplifying that as a leader. I will tell you, I think things have gotten so out of whack that in a lot of publicly traded companies, I can't say Merry Christmas without people freaking out. Okay. So I think it's really, really important to start with those principles and make sure that those are really critical. So I think one of the principles that makes an organization really, really good is when you are others focused. Are you focused on meeting other people's needs? And that could be whether you're a garrison commander supporting all those units, whether you're recruit command and you're meeting the needs of the family that have a service member entertaining, going on active duty. If you're in business, Andrew kicking it like Jackie Chan with all these different businesses. How are you adding value and focusing on others? Because if answer the problem, solve the need that they have, then whatever I'm working on will automatically take care of itself. The second one here real quickly is people, and I've alluded to it as we talked about principles, but people. If you get the principles right, you will attract the right people. Now, conversely, if I've got the principles wrong, I can attract the wrong people. And so it's very, very important, man. Hire slow, fire quick. You've got to make sure you get the right people, and don't be desperate. Figure out what right looks like for your organization and know that it's going to be worth it to hold out and make sure you get the right folks, because they're going to make all the difference. If they match up with your principles, then now I'm not going to add by addition. I'm going to add by multiplication, because I don't have to constantly go back and tell those folks in terms of people what the goal is, what the principles are, and which direction that we're headed. Here's a quick tip, I think, to check yourself on whether you're others focused or not. When was the last time you talked to people in your organization about setting goals outside of work or outside of the military or outside of mission? How often do you talk to people about personal goals, family goals, spiritual goals, physical goals? And then lastly, I'll ask you this: are you the type of person that you want to attract? If I know what I'm looking for, then I've got to represent what I'm looking for. I can't have a double standard there. So then number 3, products. For those of you guys that are in business, right? And you may think, well, products, man, that has nothing to do with the military. No, we already know what the military product is. We got to win in a complex world. So that product is, how do I do that? And so it's not just a tangible product or service when you think about business. It's the least important of the 3, but I think it's still important. And so when it comes to whatever your product is, does that add value? There's a difference between being cheap and adding value. People go, well, man, is that less expensive? Well, unless everybody on this conference call stopped by, Goodwill to buy all your Christmas presents, and unless everybody in there has a free flip phone, then you understand there's a difference between cheap and value. And you guys have decided you like value. You don't always like the cheapest. So it's very, very important that you think about that. Understand who your target audience is. What is the group that product has to meet, the need that product has to meet, and then don't veer from that. If you're a quality line, don't market that product to people that have a Walmart mentality. You're wasting your time with those folks. Okay. If you go in to drive a luxury vehicle, if you start asking that guy, what the gas mileage is and what the maintenance program is, that guy's already checked out that you probably can't afford to get that car. That's not who they're marketing to. Okay. And then I didn't get in on the survey, probably because Noble knew if he sent it to me, I probably would have passed and I wouldn't have qualified for this call. But I will throw out 3 books that I think have been really, really impactful for me. One, and if you know Noble at all, I'm sure he's told you to read it, but Personality Plus. Again, because that's very important about understanding people. Number 2 is Grit. And number 3 is a great book that I'm reading right now called The Daniel Dilemma. And so, Noble, I lost my little timer here, man. So I'm gonna stop there unless you want to ask me something. But I do want to end with this, and I meant to say it initially, but thank you to all the military guys that are in this conference and on this call. We just had Veterans Day, and man, I did 4 years, and it's easy to do 4 years, man. But for you guys that have made it a career and done those numbers, I thank my family and our country and appreciate everything that you guys do.